into this tech
Cool,
field.
cool, cool, cool.
Okay. So, hey, I just started recording. So, welcome everyone who's watching this right now. This is a live sharing by Tim. He's going to be sharing his journey on breaking into technology from a non tech background as an air steward for the past 4 years, 4 to 5 years. So, he's going to document his journey in terms of how he started learning, what are some tips and tricks that you can use, and also how did he eventually break into a software role in Singapore without a university degree, without going to a boot camp. And yeah, and Tim also will be leading our front end course in the near future. So hope you guys enjoy it and get to know Tim a bit better and hopefully learn a thing or two from Tim. So yeah, Tim. So the way we do it is you do your sharing. I'm going to read myself. Then once you're done with it, then we're going to do some Q&A and wrap it up from there. All right.
Sure,
Thanks.
sure, sure. Thanks for the, as usual, the good intro, Derek. Since this might probably be watched by some people, should I go ahead with the slides or should I just do something more informal? Slides
Go
okay?
ahead, man. Yep.
Okay. Share my screen. Oops. Can see, right? All
Yep.
right. All right. Yeah, so prepare like a short slides. It's not the best because it got deleted, but yeah, anyways. Um, so the title is called From Coffee and Tea to JavaScript and Me, which is a bit of quite a cheesy intro because I used to be an air steward, so I was yeah. So wait, okay. So let me just tell you what I'm gonna this short presentation is gonna talk about. So it's split into three very short parts. Basically, the first will be a little bit about me, and then the most important part is the second one, which is the journey. How um I became a software engineer in roughly 9 to 10 months. Yeah. So I broke it down to what I learned and how I got there. And then lastly is a bit of advice from me, and basically just some tips that I thought that things that I did well, things that I didn't do so well, and yeah, hopefully anyone that's on watching this in the future or or today, shall we? Thanks for joining. We'll learn some stuff. So yeah, without further ado, this is about me. Yeah, this is me 4 years ago. No, this is actually 2 years ago. But yeah, I was a cabin crew for Singapore Airlines for almost 4.5 years. So yeah, I joined right after my A levels when I was a bit not sure whether I should continue my studies because I had a pretty bad intro to coding by like a work experience program. So I always thought coding was very boring. So I did decided that okay, it's something that I quite like, it's getting paid to fly. So I thought I was gonna be there for 1 year. Turns out I was there for 4.5 years. And then yeah, so this is my manager. Yeah, she's a bit older, but yeah. So yeah, the story came. I was always very interested in tech, but I couldn't. Didn't really have time to sit down and learn coding until COVID came, and of course, the aviation industry is hit really hard. So yeah, so I had quite a lot of time to sit down and actually learn coding, which eventually led me to my whole 9 months journey, which I sometimes still feel quite proud of for being working very hard for the 9 months and um persevering through like the 9 months. Yeah, so a bit about the journey. So yeah, so basically it was 9 months, but I think it's a bit long for me to go at it month by month. So I summarized it into 3 months, like the first 3 months, the second 3 months, and the last 3 months. So I think one question that a lot of new developers always ask, especially those who are like trying to get into getting their first job, is like, what courses do you do? Like what do you learn? Like what do you know? So I summarize it on the left, whereby these are the like courses I did, and on the right, like these are the skills that I learned. So on the left, I did so on the first 3 months, I started with Code Academy Python's course, which was surprisingly very hard for me, but it did give me a very good intro to programming. I did know a bit of programming, but go get like since Python is not very complicated in terms of like memory allocation, and the syntax is pretty easy. So I did learn quite a lot of interesting things using that free course. And then after that, I did this highly rave I think a lot of people know this Harvard CS50 course, which was extremely hard, but it paid off very well because it's sort of it really gives you like a good understanding of why like basically a lot of fundamentals that you wouldn't learn on the traditional boot camp. And then I also did a bit of free code camp, which is very basic web development, which I found it was not very helpful because I think I think in terms of time management, I was trying to do CS50 and free code camp at the same time. So yeah, the free code camp overall it's a very good course, but it's not something that you can do on the side. It's something that you need to focus full time. So yeah, the first 3 months, basically I learned basic coding, and then from CS50 I learned C and Python, and then from free code camp I learned a bit of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which was very little, just very basic. And then I moved on to my second 3 months, which I did something was more. I went onto Udemy and I got also another very popular web dev boot camp. Then I did it for almost 2 months. It was quite long. Yeah, yeah. So all the stuff that I will link, I'll send the links. Basically, you attach all the links so that you can find it. Yeah. So this 3 months was really like a learning, like a lot of learning month, whereby it was every day it was just bombarded with a lot of information. So yeah, I can see that the skills I learned are just very standard web dev stuff. So HTML, CSS, jQuery, MongoDB, Express, and React. So these basically sort of covered that I knew like the MERN stack, which is Mongo, Express, React, and Node. So yeah, I think after that I realized that so basically in this particular bootcamp it was very good, but it was slightly outdated in terms of the curriculum, whereby they didn't teach React because Express has its own templating syntax that you don't need a front end if it's a really simple app. So I actually learned React through YouTube tutorials, which is actually really helpful because a lot of stuff eventually you'll find that you can learn a lot more stuff on YouTube tutorials rather than going through like a whole Udemy course. Yeah, so that was the second 3 months. A lot of learning, very heavily invested in just sitting down and coding, which has its good and bad, which I will talk about later. And then the last 3 months, which is more of the sort of the harder stuff, which is doing lead code, then building up your portfolio, building up portfolio projects, and then networking. Yeah, so I'll talk a bit about this later. And then of course doing more YouTube tutorials to sort of like, yeah, just basically learning more coding lah. Yeah, so this one I learned a lot of different skills that you traditionally wouldn't hear that because normally you hear people like, okay, let's you need to learn React, you need to learn Vue, but these are things that people tend to forget, but it's also very important to get a job, which is Git and GitHub, and then building a proper resume, your LinkedIn, your how you build your CV, and then building the last point here I wrote building rapport is because there are a lot of instances where I networked and I built quite a good relationship with the recruiter, and then end up the recruiters they will be very gladly to refer you jobs, and then you have more opportunities to go for interviews, and yeah, basically just opens up the job opportunities lah. Yeah, and then at the end of the last month, yeah, I got like a first full-time job, which was my first job, and then eventually after less than 6 months I got my second job. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest question a lot of people, so yeah, I just summarize it. So yeah, like I said, a lot of like when I was starting, I think this is one of my biggest question, always asking like, what do I need to know? Like, what's like the bare minimum? Well, I don't think this is a very good benchmark because I felt like I'm definitely someone that didn't know a lot of stuff, but I think serves as an inspiration to people that I knew only this and I could get a job and like a decent job. So as you can see, I knew very front end, like I was very front end focused. I knew HTML, CSS, JavaScript, a bit of jQuery, and a little bit of React. That's all. And backend, I only knew Node.js, which is Express.js. And then tools, I only knew one database, like one type of database, which is MongoDB. It's not even SQL. I didn't even know SQL at all. And then a bit of Git and a bit of Photoshop. So with all this, I managed to get a job. So if you are like watching this in the future and you see that, oh, you know a lot more. So yeah, I can assure you that you're in good hands. And then yeah, last but not least, a bit of advice from me. So I've also three advice that I would give. So the first is doing before you're ready, because a lot of times, especially when you are on this journey, you feel like you're not ready in everything, in interviews. So like I wrote here, interviews, learning, and networking. So like example interviews, you feel like, okay, I'm not ready to um I'm not ready for this interview because I don't think I'm like capable enough. But my advice is always to just go for the interview regardless whether you're ready or not, because you never know what you don't know. So a lot of times when you're new, you don't even know what you don't know. So when you go to the interview, after getting bombarded with questions, then you have a really good sense of idea, like what do I not know, and then you have a more clear path towards what you need to work to. Same goes for learning and networking. Learning, a lot of times you're like, okay, I'm not ready to learn like advanced stuff, maybe advanced stuff in JavaScript, but you're not gonna know similarly, you're not gonna know what you don't know until you really, really go try it, and you're like, okay, I don't know all this stuff, and then you can slowly work on that. Yeah, so that's the first advice. Second advice is a bit general, but it is patience. I think even for me today, patience is sometimes I get really impatient because as developers we just want to like get things done fast, but coding, in fact, it's actually a really hard thing. Like it doesn't, you won't just get it fast. That's why so many people give up so easily, because coding is very hard and it really takes time. So yeah, so my second advice is just to be patient and just play the long game. And then my last advice is building good habits. So this is more of a personal advice because I feel like a lot of developers, even though they got a job or whatever, but they stay very stagnant very fast because they stop they don't build good habits from day one. So I feel like even before you get a first job, while you are learning, build good habits, and these good habits will really compound. Like read, so the examples here are like reading Medium, browsing Reddit, not whatever, not the other Reddit, but like learn programming Reddit, which is that subreddit, and then following developers on Twitter, and then writing clean code. All these good habits you should start like right now. So when you eventually 2 years down the line, you're gonna thank yourself because you have already built this good habit, and it's already ingrained in your daily life. Yeah, and it really ties down to this last bonus advice that I have, which is this really good book that sort of really helped me during my coding journey, which is called Atomic Habits. It really is what it means. Atomic is very small, so it is a book about how you can like small changes. So yeah, it says here tiny changes, remarkable results. So it's really about how you can make small changes to your lives every day, and how you make remarkable results in like a 1 year's time. So I think it was really aligned with how I learned coding, because I mean how everyone learned coding, but I really resonated with it because I felt like I didn't know a lot of things, and then I all I had to do is learn a bit every day. Eventually after 1 year, I knew, if you learn one thing every day, after 1 year you know 365 things, and you learn two things every day. After 1 year, you learn 700 things. So it really compounds. And yeah, that's basically my presentation. Yeah, thanks for listening. I think, yeah, now we can have like
Awesome,
a
awesome.
Q&A
No,
session.
let's go straight into Q&A now. Tim, I have a few questions for you. I'm just going to ask it on behalf of future viewers, and also maybe for myself to understand you and your journey a bit better. So for a bit of context, everyone who's watching, Tim was a friend of mine since high school. I was a transfer student, and he was an OG student who was in school already. And yeah, he was I think he had a little he was like part of the cool kid gang, lah, right? And I think he had a little bit interest in coding. I think back then he was like leading the computer club or something like that, which I was part of as well. If you remember him.
I do, I remember.
Yeah, because I'm computer fair, right? But back then I never really seen myself as a tech person, and I also didn't know Tim was a tech person. But eventually, long story short, we kind of lost contact for a while. But I went into this journey learning to code myself. He also went into this journey, and that's when I realized, hey, we're in the same path, and then we reconnected after that. And that was actually that was like 2 years ago, I think. Right, time flies so damn quickly.
Time flies, man. Time flies.
Yeah, that was when Tim was. I believe that was when you first landed your first role, or even before you landed your first role, right? That was when you were still
Yes.
learning, I believe. So after learning, and then now he's a software engineer with 2 years of experience, which is something to be really respected. Getting a job without a degree and all that. I think even though it's not like a PhD level job, right? But it's still, I feel very, very, very. It's a big, huge achievement. I believe, Tim, you should have.
Thank you.
I think after 2 years, you're bored of it, the feeling. But I believe when you first got it, it would have meant the world to you. I believe. Right?
I cried.
Yes, because the moment you get paid for your skill sets, you realize you unlock a whole world of possibilities. The first job is all it takes. You don't need a fancy job going to Google as your first job. It's okay. Just slow it down a little bit, get a job first, learn up, get paid for your skill sets. Then you know you've unlocked something for the future, right? So yeah, Tim, I want to ask you, right? In terms, thanks for your sharing. I think your sharing was very good. But I have one thing, only. You made it sound so easy, right? It sounds so damn easy, like part one, part two, part three, and haha, that's it. I got a job, right? But I want to know, maybe you can share a little bit in terms of the hardest part. In terms of your journey, was there a point where you felt like giving up, or share a bit on that?
Okay, this is $1 million question because I'm going to tie it to Sigma School. Yeah, so I think the hardest part, especially when you are self-learning, is always not knowing the right direction, because coding is really so complicated. Even now, after 2 years, every day, sometimes I look at my tasks and read the documentation. I have no idea what it's talking about, and sometimes it even goes to a point where like I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm done for today. I don't understand anything. It's really normal. Like even my senior developers who have like 10 years experience, they don't understand what it is. But that's the beautiful thing about coding, because you are expected to not know things, and you are paid to learn things. So with that being said, there's too many things in the field of coding to actually learn. So especially back to your question, especially as a new person, the hardest part is knowing what to learn. There's too many things. So filtering out the right things to learn. There's too many things to learn. If you talk about front end, there's so many frameworks. You want to learn every framework, it's impossible. So I think the hardest challenge for me was how do I know what I'm learning is the right thing, and how do I know that I'm learning the right way? So the $1 million question is that if you have a mentor, or you have someone, or have like something that you can follow, that is the best way to counter this problem. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's where Sigma 2 comes in.
Hey, thanks for the quick plug, or the shameless plug for Sigma School. But
no problem.
I think that's a very good point that you mentioned. As programmers, or as developers, or as coders, right? One thing people need to understand, for future people watching this, I get this all the time, by the way, Tim, as well. Very common, either from students or from clients who wants to build software. They're like, oh, have you done this before, or are you gonna cover this very specific Python library? I'm like, guys, you guys need to understand that as developers, we don't know everything under the sun. But the thing about developers is, once you understand the fundamentals, right, and it's just a matter of time. Let's say, like Tim, you mentioned a few documentation. Some documentations are very shitty. As you know, right, Tim, online, some documentations are just so damn shitty. But the thing is, it takes time. Looking at it once, being a developer, you're learning every single day. Let's put it that way. You never stop learning. You always learn new stuff and new stuff. The only difference is you get better at it with experience, and that's it, right?
I agree.
Yeah, you learn to write clean code. You learn to ask good questions. You learn to try out and test your code faster, right? And that's it. That's all to it, right? So even if you have 10 years of experience or 1 year of experience, yes, I'm not saying there's no difference. There is a difference, but someone who's young, 20 years old, can also get a software engineering job. Let's put it that way, right? Okay, that's one thing. And also, I guess another thing that I wanted to say was, in terms of getting a tutor from Sigma School or whatever, right? Some people like Tim, for example, like myself as well, we did it ourselves completely on our own, right? Was it fun? I would say no, it wasn't fun. And did we, Tim and I, did we need a full-time mentor sitting next to us teaching us? No, we didn't do that at all, right? Because that was too handheld, and that's going to cost a lot of money, right? Imagine paying a full-time software engineer to teach you. That's like I say, hey Tim, can you work for Sigma School full-time right now and handhold our students one by one? Tim is going to be like, hey, pay me more than what I'm getting paid now in my Singaporean job, and it's going to be very hard, right? So how do we balance that? And we balance that the Sigma School way is by letting students learn with students, because what we need is just guidance and peer, and like Tim, you go to the gym, right? Tim is a gym. I remember I'm gonna ask this question later, but remember at this point, Tim last time, he was actually very skinny. Then at some point during Form 5, he suddenly became very jacked up. So I don't know what he did. But I think Tim,
Heartbroken.
I remember you and Daniel Tom, both of you. But anyways, so back to this point, right, where going to the gym is the same thing, right? Going to the gym is very simple. Just go there 1 hour every day or half an hour every day, just lift some damn weights. And we all know that, the secret to getting big and healthy and buff is good nutrition and, consistent workouts and, weights, obviously, right? So we all know that, but why are there still fat people in the world? And why am I not buff? Right? Why are we all not like muscle mania champions? Why? Right? Because of accountability. That's one thing. Because of consistency. Like Tim introduced a very good book, Atomic Habits, right? That's what you need, a group of friends learning together, right? So I'm guessing, yeah. Sorry, I not too much of it. But hey, Tim, yes, cool. Thanks for sharing all that. I mean, I think my next question for you is, was your first job in Malaysia or Singapore?
Oh yeah, so I think just to sort of add on a bit about that. So there's this one part in Atomic Habits. I'm not getting paid for the book, honestly, but yeah, there's this one part about the book in the Atomic Habits is about how you can sort of set up your environment for success. So there's this part saying that if you want to like go gym, like make your partner sign up with you. So like every time you feel like skipping, and your partner is going, so you're like, okay, no choice. Then you go. Yeah. So it's very similar because when I was learning coding, I had a partner, sort of like a friend that was learning together. So then he was like, he was like, oh dude, React is so cool. And then I was like, oh shit, I don't even know React at all. And then and you get a bit more like competitive and you want to learn. Yeah.
Yes.
And you're like, hey, dude, like I know this. Like, do you know this? So it's really it's a good way to learn, especially building environment. Yeah, but anyway, back to the question. Yeah, my first job was in Singapore as well. It was also with a startup, but the startup ran out of money, sadly. Yeah. It was Django back then and Vue front end, yeah. And I was quite lucky because I was getting paid to learn Vue on the job, which eventually helped me because my current job also uses Vue. So when I interviewed for my current job, I already knew Vue. So yeah, so never be afraid to go on job and learn because you never know. Yeah.
Oh,
you
so
might need it for.
ask for your first role, right? Why
Mm.
did they not hire a Singaporean? Why did they hire you?
Um
You like a lot cheaper or something compared to Singaporean?
yes, number one, I think it was a lot cheaper. And number two, I think they wanted someone who was not they wanted someone, I guess since it was a startup, so they wanted someone who was more like dynamic and sort of fit into their culture.
Yes.
Whereby and also because I was Malaysian, so they wanted to expand to Malaysia despite not having a lot of money. So it was a really lucky situation. And I guess the tech lead felt that I was just very motivated. I told him that okay, I just told him honestly, I'm not that great, but I'm very willing to learn. Like this is everything I've done. This is not the code I've written, and he saw that passion and he's okay, let's just try,
Exactly.
But sadly it didn't work out after actually not even 6 months, after 4 months, the boss just told me, okay, I'm so sorry, like, we just don't have the money. And then yeah, it was some situation like that. It was quite saddening actually.
In the world of startups, cash is tight, but okay. Hey, thanks for sharing. I think whatever you mentioned there, it's not uncommon, honestly. Because just FYI also for Jiawei, this one, right, is often a lot of people, like Tim said, a very good advice just now. You're never ready, right? Do it before you think you're ready, which is applying for jobs and all that. Because one thing you will realize is the world currently we're all struggling to hire good developers. It's very, very, very hard. So if you can go in with a pitch, give your bosses the impression that you are able to learn. That's it. That's all they need, right? And Tim, can you run me through again what was the basics that you had, going in the first role?
So HTML, CSS,
Okay.
and then JavaScript, React.
So JavaScript. Like, what's your level at JavaScript? Like, could you solve like, okay, let's say free code camp. Have you done free code camp? Algorithm challenges?
No, not that.
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't do that. But okay, I would say my level of JavaScript was very poor. Like I couldn't even answer like I think the question, I still remember the interview question was like what's the difference between let cons and var, and then I was like, aren't they the same?
Okay. No, but
Yeah.
this JavaScript specific thing. But what about computational thinking? What was your level?
Combination.
Like
I
solving
think
it?
sorry problem. I think I was actually decent. Like I was actually decent in because I think maybe because I have a bit of I wouldn't say I'm very good at maths, but I did hate maths. So I think in terms of combination thinking, I could sort of think the solution. So I think he gave me a coding problem was something with the array. I don't remember what. I couldn't solve it, but my pseudocode was correct. So I think that showed him that okay, this guy coding skills is not there, but he has the right combination thinking to solve the problem in pseudocode.
Correct.
So yeah, this guy just needs a bit. He's just a bit rough around the edges.
Okay. Hey, that's good. That's exactly my point, right? Having pseudo coding, in fact, is the hard part. Once you pseudo code it, then it's just syntax only, right?
It's just technical, yeah. It's just
Yes,
technical.
correct. So I guess this is one thing also for a lot of beginners out there. And did you okay? One thing that a lot of people, I believe yourself as well, is facing is some form of imposter syndrome. I believe you faced it.
Oh.
I did, right? Okay. And I'm gonna just go straight to the point. Some people, a lot of people, self-taught people, we skip going through big O notations and all that, which I wouldn't say is a good thing, right? But of course, you don't need to cover that for a job, right? But one thing I want to know is what was your understanding in terms of big O back in the days, and have you used that on the job before? Was there a need to use like time and space complexity, understand all this stuff,
You mean like
like optimizing your code for
you
search?
mean did I know big O notation when I was interviewing for my first job?
Yes.
I knew what it was in theory, but if you ask me to calculate like my if you ask me to tell if you ask me to write algorithm out and then say what like tell the interviewer what was my time and space complexity, I wouldn't have known. Yeah,
Okay.
so that was my level. It was quite poor. Yeah.
Knew what was it lah? What it was?
Yeah, I knew what it was. I knew it was sort of like a measure to sort of see what it's basically like how your algorithm performs at the worst case scenario.
Yep.
So I knew it was that, but I didn't know how to actually the nitty-gritty details of how to actually count it.
Got it.
How do you actually see what is your big O notation?
I'm aware that currently you are doing a computer science program, a degree, and also I guess it's to fill up this gap in your knowledge. I'm guessing, is that correct? Or exactly?
Okay, so to anyone watching and also to Jawe and of course Derek, this would seem like extremely like contradictory to who I am because I'm like 100% self-taught person. I labeled myself as self-taught, and then now I'm going back to do a degree. So a lot of people ask me why, like, why are you doing that? So I think my number one reason is not about the knowledge. My number one reason is just I don't want to have any regrets in life. That's my only reason in life because I don't have a degree at all, not even like a normal degree. My highest education was A levels, so
Okay.
I just thought that since it's something that I can afford because of the remote studying, something I can afford quite well. And then it's remote, so I don't have to spend time going to campus. That's the only reason that I took it. And I realized that, yeah, in 2 years I will get a degree. It won't really affect my job per se, maybe a little bit. But yeah, the main reason was that I didn't want to like regret, being 35, like, oh, I had done a degree and I didn't do it. That was the only reason. The second slightly reason is that I wanted to learn algo data structure at a real setting, which you can obviously learn on your own if you want. Like you can literally learn anything on Udemy if you want. But I just realized, okay, if I was in a class and I had to pass exams, then no choice, right? I have to like learn it properly. Yeah.
Push, I'm guessing, is that push your
Yeah, it's like a push factor.
Yes.
Which exactly like right now I've reached the class of algo and data structure. I'm like, oh my god, this is the only class I'm actually here for.
Yeah. But you see, eventually you still end up having to solve it yourself. But it's just that push that really makes you actually do it. If not, you're just like, it's so difficult. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Right?
Correct.
No, thanks for sharing, team. I think I'm
No problem.
not going to judge you for doing a uni degree, right?
No problem.
It's your choice and how much was it, by the way? I mean, you share.
It's cheap because so basically I'm doing with University of London, right? And they do it fully remote. So only the exams I need to go to center. But so far because of COVID, the exams are online too. So you can refer. So yeah, the price is quite cheap because I
How
think I
much?
paid around like, okay, so if it's ringgit, it's like,
Wait, the say. Let Jawei guess first. Jawei, take
oh
a
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
So how long will be the duration of your studies? 2 years, right?
2.5.
Two and a half computer science. Let me guess around maybe 80k, maybe.
Oh, you're way higher, man. That's why I say it's cheap. I think the total was around 60,
60.
50 to 60, yeah,
Oh wow.
around that. Yeah, so it's very very reasonable, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and it's really, I think they really label it as like a degree for self-taught. So a lot of my teammates are like
My
are like
goodness.
Part time.
are like yeah, they are really software engineers. Like
Yeah.
one of my teammate is like a senior software engineer at Facebook, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing here? He's like, yeah,
Wow.
same like, he's like,
Same
yeah, I'm just like you, yeah, you know.
Is that is
And
that is that fear of missing out, I'm guessing, in many
mm,
parts, in most parts.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
yeah,
By the way,
none
it's
of my group mate, oh sorry,
60K
yeah,
is expensive.
yeah,
Whereas not
it is
money.
yeah, it is expensive. It is okay lah, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's
Compared to Sigma School, is a different level lah.
compared to Sigma School,
It's
yeah,
more than
yeah.
10
But
times.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
I guess it's a
So I
different
think,
purpose. Yeah, you earn your
yeah,
money.
it's a different purpose. Yes, it's a different purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and also for like, like because I'm in Singapore and residential shit and like getting PRs and stuff, it's easier
Oh,
to have a degree.
yeah. Okay, got it. Okay,
Mm.
okay, cool. So, okay, hey, Jawei, do you have any questions for Tim? Go ahead.
Okay. Great team.
Yeah,
Thanks
man,
for sharing. Okay, so right now
no
you're based
problem,
in
man.
Singapore.
Yeah, man.
Okay,
Yep,
so previously you worked stewarded at Malaysia, right? So how did you find out the cultural difference of the working environment between Singapore and Malaysia?
I was a student in Singapore as well.
Oh, okay. So you
So I
didn't
can,
like work in Malaysia before at
yeah,
all?
I've never,
Oh,
I came to Singapore after my A-levels.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
when I was
So
17.
how is going like the working environment at Singapore? How do you feel it?
I think in terms of working environment, Singapore is definitely more competitive. Lah. That's all I would say. Singapore is definitely more competitive. Um, I don't want to sound like I'm not patriotic, but Singapore people are way smarter, to be honest. And
Mhm.
yeah,
On average, right?
because on
Mm.
average, yeah, because I guess their education system is just better, and it just, yeah, it is also one of the selling points. But yeah, their education system is way better, and it just pushes people like the
Mm.
average higher, lah, basically.
Cool.
It's this concept of universal basic education. This is one thing that I heard of, and I know for a fact, right, that because I work with a lot of students, and as much as I want to push out coding education, a lot of people in Malaysia don't have the basic requirements of understanding things. Right?
Correct,
It's not their fault. It's just that their upbringing, maybe they had to work. They didn't have the chance to go to school and study very hard like we did. And I think this is very important because without universal, like for us, right, me, you, Tim, Jawei, or a lot of people out there, for us, I would say we are privileged. We have the skill sets to learn on the job. Like Jawei right now, right? I can bet everything that you will be able to become a developer. It's just a matter of time because you have the basic competency, the basic ability, IQ to understand things.
I
Some
mean,
people struggle. Yeah, Tim.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you're here, I already know you're gonna reach there, bro. The fact that you're here on a Saturday, 4 p.m. listening to some two random guys talk, I think you're already halfway there, bro.
Okay, cool.
In many ways, right?
Yeah.
This session, by the way, our sessions every Saturday where we invite industry experts to share, we're gonna lock it up for our paying students only, right? But in many ways, this is a filtering funnel for us to find out who are the students who really want it, because we have a lot of students like whenever I tell people at Sigma School, people get very excited. And like let's be real, right? Who doesn't want to be a developer, right? You have the skill sets to build anything you want in the world. Everyone wants the skill set, but who's willing? That's a quote. Everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. You guys heard of that quote, right? So being a developer is not easy. Like Tim, is you're struggling. I struggle. I still struggling. Jawei, I believe you're struggling as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's never easy, right? Because if it's easy, everyone will be doing it, and everyone will be a developer, right? So for us, it's what's the minimum viable path to a job. And oftentimes I invite people like Tim, and last week we invite someone like Manman. Manman is Tim's friend as well, right?
Yeah. I saw.
Yes. So we invite people like them to share their journey, not how they got their first, I don't know, like crazy job as a CEO, right? But really how they got their very first job from zero to that first job that pays them money. And I hope you learn a lot today, Jawi. And I think
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap up soon. But Jawi can ask your questions. But I think my one more question for Tim, right, is can you run me through what is your funnel like? So when I say funnel, I want to know how many jobs you've applied, your success rates. How many do you apply for? How many interviews do you get? How many coding interviews? How many, you know what I'm saying? The funnel. Run me through your funnel.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna be really honest because it's really such a depressing number. So I think so I actually write on Medium quite often. So if anyone is a bit more interested on the details, they can go through my Medium. A bit sorry, self promotion, but yeah, it's
Right.
I wrote it very detailedly in my blog. So basically, for the first 3 months, I didn't apply for jobs. The second 3 months I applied for jobs, but it was so painful because I applied. Let's say so the rate was like I applied for 10 and I got 0 replies because I don't have a degree and I'm a self-taught guy. So you're like no one, you know. So for the first 3 months it was like this. The second 3 months like this, and then eventually it got better because I sort of learned how to apply for jobs rather than just applying blindly. It's not really a numbers game. It's like the right numbers. You got to play the right numbers, not just yeah. If you apply for 100 wrong jobs, you're not gonna get a reply. If you apply for 10 right jobs, you might get 5 replies. Yeah. So my rate was really it was really like one in 10 at first, and then it's improved to like not that good, like 3 out of 10. And then after I got my first job, it still didn't went significantly, like it didn't change significantly because I was still a fairly inexperienced developer. So I was getting like 4 out of 10, I would say. It's just a slight increase. But
4 out of 10
after my
calls, you mean like interview calls?
yes, 4 out of 10 means there's some progress that I'm actually getting invited interviews. But after I got my second job, it was like a big so like this is like another thing in Atomic Habits. It's always compound, so it's very slow at start. It compounds. So after I got my current job, it compounded whereby like every week I'm getting like 5 or 6 recruiters calling me like to the point where I'm like, okay, I have to turn on my LinkedIn because there's too many.
Yeah.
Like I will be getting like at least like two. At least on Monday it's at least five,
Mm.
and on Friday it's at least one or two.
Yeah.
Like and throughout the week it varies lah. But on Monday definitely five. Job offers there's like job offers like basically it's just software engineer and they just show you the stack and then they just tell you the company. Yeah, so really that I think after my current this job, it was like maybe 9 out of 10. Yeah, maybe the ones that if I apply oh, if I apply like okay, maybe the one is like if I apply for Google, Facebook, and really top fan companies now. But most of all, like I would usually get replies. Either they say that okay, they will actually ask a bit of questions and then they say okay, actually you're not right fit straight away. Yeah, rather than and then there's a bit of more negotiation part where
Okay.
even if I got the offer, I could negotiate like okay, like it's like the salary is a bit too low, like the hours too long, kind of stuff like that. It's like a great thing. Yeah.
For a Malaysian to get a job in Singapore, right? Let's say a Malaysian with let's say no degree, right? But his coding skills are maybe your level 1 year ago. Okay, so some experience, but not super good last time, right? 1 or 2 years ago. So if this person wants to get a job in Singapore for 3K Sing, do you think it's doable? And is it, what would
Yeah.
you say?
With 1 year experience,
With half a year to 1 year.
I think definitely doable, man.
Because 3K is below average, right? For someone
Yeah,
with experience in Singapore.
I think 3K is like around average for fresh, I guess.
For fresh grad in Singapore.
Yeah. For I guess for like a fresh startup developer, it's somewhere reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, and we especially someone with no degree and like just a self-taught. Yeah, so if you are like a Malaysian guy that wants to come to Singapore, my wife's personal advice is just aim for the startups. They are desperate for developers.
Yes, they're all desperate.
cheap developers that will say yes to 3K, and then you can tell them that, yeah, and then you can just start the, like, this is just personal advice, just start the job, and then 3K, you think about it, it's 18K ringgit, and then you just say, okay, after you get a bit more comfortable with, like, oh, okay, can I work 2 weeks? Can I work 2 weeks at home?
Yeah.
Which they think is, your home in Singapore, but it's home in KL. No one knows.
My goodness. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
sorry. So, team, one last question for me. Sorry, Jawi, have to wait for a bit. One last question. This is
No worries, no worries.
Tim, if you could summarize your 9 month journey now, in hindsight, knowing all that you know today, if you could summarize your 9 months into, let's say, 3 months, tell Jawi, hey Jawi, what do you need to do to get your very first job in Malaysia or Singapore, right, as a developer? Summarize into 3 months.
summarize in 3 months. All right.
At
Summarize
least.
the 3 steps out basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So step one, know the basic stuff. So I can't tell you like what you need to know, but there's like certain things that you definitely need to know lah. And maybe looking at what I knew, it's like a good bench. It's not a very good benchmark. But it's a rough gauge. It's a rough gauge. So that's number one. So because you are still a developer, so you still got to know a bit of code. So you got to know that stuff. So search around LinkedIn and find what are like the most trends. Maybe in Malaysia and Singapore is different, but in like every country is different. Yeah. So maybe the trends right now is all React, and maybe the trend next one is all view. So yeah, so you learn whatever the trend leads you. Don't listen to other people. Do your own research. People always say nonsense. People tell me that jQuery is useless, but I use it every day. Yeah. So yeah, and then that's number one. Number two, network and build a resume. That's very important. Network and build a resume. That's step two. Network, build a resume. Network, just add to your LinkedIn and ask them any company you like. Just add people on their software engineers and ask them, oh, tell me about your work. They'll be more than glad to, like, oh, I do this on a daily basis. You're like asking, you're interviewing them, and they love it. They love to talk about their work. Because you're essentially asking, oh my god, you're so cool. Please tell me about your life. Like, who doesn't want to talk about that? So that's number two. And then just go network, read like articles on how to build your LinkedIn, how to build your portfolio sites. That's very important. Yeah, because I realized, so on a lot of opportunities, I actually sort of like got an advantage because I had a portfolio site and they could see what I did. And I'm very front end focused back then when I applied for jobs. So people could see, this guy actually is what he says. Even his portfolio site shows that he's a very front end person. Yeah. Number two. Then number three is step three is just do it. Before you're ready, just do it. If the job says you need to know React, but you don't know React, just go in and just tell them, I'm not very good at React. I only know how to write a component without state and props. But yeah, just, and then I think sometimes interviewers appreciate this kind of honesty, and they'll be like, okay, then tell me, what do you know? I have a lot of instances where I say, okay, I'm not lying, I just don't know this at all. I can learn, but I don't know it now. And then he's like, okay, so what do you want me to ask you? Tell me something that you know. Then I said that I know what is object-oriented programming. And he's like, okay, great. Tell me what object-oriented programming is. And then I did tell him, and he's like, okay, that's right. You know what it is, and you sound like you know how it's implemented. Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I think that's all on my side. Jawi, you have any questions? You wanna go ahead and ask?
Currently in my head, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
No
awesome.
problem. You can always add me and ask me any questions, bro. I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Team will be joining us in our learning platform very soon.
Cool.
Yeah, but maybe sometime in June, July-ish. So, okay, hey guys, it was a really good session, Tim and Jawi. Thanks for taking your sweet Saturday evening to give us this sharing, right? You guys could have been dating or coding or hustling or doing whatever, but you're here. So I appreciate it, guys. It's good. It's good. Let's keep it going. And let me take a quick picture just to record this moment.
I'm having a bad hair day.
Come on, 3, 2, 1. Awesome, all the thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Then okay. Thanks, guys. I'll make a move first. So looking forward to work with you guys. All right.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, bye. See you.
Bye bye.